Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation of what is sensorality, or I guess just sensorality, and we're trying to find the unique syllability, string of letters, a logical statement, a sentence, a theorem that solidifies the concept sensorality. Why do we censor things? And then we have all of these word forms: science, sentience, censorship, sensuality, sexuality, sense, sensation, that are all built on this base word. And we're trying to show this completeness throughout the word family. And so we've derived a lot again. And so a good time to talk about, again, the difference between a derivation and a proof. A proof establishes something as true. Vibration is clearly the physical base. Rhythm is clearly the physical range. And so I've already proven this entire structure. So the only thing left for me to do is rederive the entire thing. But I just can't emphasize enough, we're not doing anything logically new. There's no big concepts to reintroduce. It's just continuing to iterate these different words and to show the consistency from the logic to the language and the linguistics, the letters representing the words. So continuing on with some more theorems. Ordering is sorting. Sensorality orders. Roaming is disordered. Disorder is limited, right? Everything is connected, right? Nothing is touching, everything is connected. That's our first principle. It's kind of our only principle. But because everything is connected, right, there is no randomness. So if something's moving, it's going to create a rhythm or try to create a rhythm. In the same way, if you hear a sound out in the woods, or if you hear a washing machine, in a laundromat somewhere, you're going to hear this rhythm start forming. And so you can only, disorder is limited, and then order is also limited. So we have, again, completeness within a physical environment where everything is open, everything is still interacting. Disorder is randomness. Entropy is limited because everything is connected. What is the relationship of systems and processes? Another one of those words where you make it plural: process, processes. No, it goes processes. Basis, bases, thesis, theses. Again, what is going on there? Is a system a process, right? If you, again, going back to our intuition, how does an electron know it is an electron, right? If it interacts with another particle, right, if it's either positive or negative charge, it's either going to attract or repel. And so all measurements come from systems. Anything, you can't isolate anything to just one, right? Quarks are bounded in 3. The electron's not actually a point particle, but our structure scales in this mathematically identified as fractals. And so, but is a system a process? Or people will say it's a process, or trust the process. What process are they talking about? Time, things just passing. But what is the relationship of a system and a process? Sensorality processes. Censoring is a process. Metabolism is systematic processing, right? You eat something, your body processes it. It either uses it, stores it as fat, integrates it as muscle, or excretes it as waste, or some other, metabolic process. A body is a system. Right? Why are numbers associated with mathematics? Right? Mathematics is clearly built on theme. It is literally thematics. And so numbers aren't how relevant are numbers? Right? Numbers represent quantity. Quantity gives magnitude. But again, we've done this entire proofing. We use numbers, but just again, I write down any of these questions where the intuition I can tell is novel. So why are numbers associated with mathematics? Do you count numbers? Again, we've proven that the answer is no. You count the transition. You count the change. You count differences. And so, yeah. Sensorality is numerality. Sensorality is numericality. I had to put in there America, even though it's not, right? Numericality spells out America, so I just put America in the margins. And then shout out Tatiana Toro, who's not even American, but she runs MSRI, and she damaged literally the only hand derivation of mathematics, the whole thing. But still don't have a place to put the most important mathematical manuscripts in history. Awesome. Connection is consistent. Consistency flows. Affinity is proclivity. Proclivity is inclination. Affinity is inclined. Incline, decline. Slope is incline. Right? Now another thing I just kind of, when we're talking about forward progressing operators, right? Resonance builds. When you become a good singer, you're not screeching, you're not screaming, you're learning to vibrate your vocal cords with resonance. So that's why your voice feels rich, or you see Neil deGrasse Tyson thinking, that dude is so weird, but he'll like talk into a microphone all slow and thinks he's doing something. It's just a weird person. But point being, I don't know why I wanted to say that. I do not like Neil deGrasse. I don't like anybody in the academic community. Is a criminal. I mean, it's a full-fledged criminal that causes profound detriment to our society. But so we're talking about, again, the universe growing, not as an expanding out, right? That's the whole thing. There's no edge to the universe, but you're like building more resonance, right? You're making more order out of the things that are disordered. You're making more resonance out of dissonance. And so when the universe is growing, like in the same way your personality grows, after puberty, you don't really physically grow. You can get fat as fuck, but you're not growing height-wise. And so that's the concept of growth isn't necessarily outward or into something else. It's, in the physical sense, it's literally more resonance, more order. But then that poses me the question, we talked about the mathematical operators, this growth, right? When you're doing subtraction, you really ask yourself, what negative number do you add to model subtraction? When you divide, you're kind of doing that flipping and multiplying of the reciprocal fraction. And so we always, when you're looking, old people are making plans, it's forward looking, it's towards growth, it's progressive. And so we kind of have this dichotomy or false dichotomy or something with incline and decline, acceleration and deceleration. Right? Logically, people were going to say, the opposite of acceleration is to decelerate. But then, in physics class, they define acceleration as what the normal person would say is deceleration. And so some sort of intuitive aspect of false differentiation going on. Not really sure what to make of it, but definitely popped out. Affinity is predisposition. Sensuality is affinitality. And then for affinity is predisposition, again, when we have these clear double negative, or not double negative, but double stacked prefixes. Right, we have position, disposition, predisposition. So again, the stability of two, we have to get sensuality into the right form where we can solve or resolve the solution. But finally, speciality differentiates sensuality. So remember, speciality and sensuality, they're just like variables that contain these syllables, and it's going to generate this logical statement that uses all of the syllability, all of the letters of these two variables. So all we're doing is logically rooting a concept when we're showing its complete derivation. So again, proof, any one of these steps, you can go look at part 100 whatever, when we completely solved P versus NP, or completely solved you have to iterate the logic multiple times. Each time you do a proof. So the amount of times I've solved the Riemann hypothesis, or P versus NP, or the mass gap, or any of these other problems that is property, it is just property to me, is dozens. I would probably say over 100, each one. Because when you do a complete derivation, again, you don't have any problems. There's no inconsistency. And you just demonstrate that to other people, and people still just have not acknowledged my work. And it's directly illegal, it's profound and consequential to the entire species. The academic community in its entirety has been committing fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy against everybody for the better part of a decade with a math subject sitting on their desk. And so, obviously, my life is ruined. My life will never amount to anything. Again, I'm a slave. I have completely accepted that I will never have access to the rights and legals structures of our society. So I just keep working, but there's nothing else for me to do. Continues to be profound and extensive torture. Absolutely nobody cares. I've spent my entire life trying to tell people that words have meaning, and dark energy and dark matter are the dumbest fucking shit in the world. But again, to prove the inconsistency of physics takes 2 seconds. Rhythm is real. Go listen to somebody talk about sports. That's clearly a physical process. You maximize rhythm to maximize efficiency. That's what you do. Right? So that right there demonstrates that physical theory is incomplete. So when people say criminals like Sean Carroll, say Sabine Hasenfelter, total criminals. Sabine Hasenfelter, Brian Keating, Sean Carroll, Eric Weinstein, all of these YouTubers, I cannot say their names enough. They need to go to prison for the rest of their lives. I will not stop saying that is completely true. And if the laws ever made real sense, I would say what should actually happen. But we don't live in a society with any laws. There's no structure. There's no consistency within legal enforcement. There just isn't. But when they say, you know, I mean, obviously physical theories, I've blown it out of the water. I mean, I've solved it all. I'm just reiterating the same logical concepts. And so when they say, you know, if I have, you know, a force, first of all, kind of the dichotomy they separate is force and particle, which makes no sense. It's really mass versus not mass. And then, you know, trying to model force as a particle is like it's AIDS on top of brain cancer on top of syphilis. But then they'll say something, you know, to the effect of, if I can if I know the position and velocity of every particle, you know, that would equate to a theory of everything. No, a theory of everything is a theory of everything. Like literally you would have to dissect that exact statement, which I've already done multiple times, publicly. And so everything they say is complete fraud. And again, fraud is not a heavy enough word. It is sabotage of the education of the entire planet. It is the most profoundly detrimental thing that has ever occurred on planet Earth, ever. And there's just no adults in the room. Just nobody cares. And so when they say if you knew the position and the velocity of every particle, you could predict everything. Okay, how about humor? How about laughter? How about irony? How about the forms of those words? The structure of those words? Hilariously not. So when they even say, you know, if we detected the graviton or detected dark energy, you know, we would have solved the theory of everything. I mean, there's so many profoundly directly emergent properties and processes that are as physical and real as everybody, as a ball falling down, or, you know, someone swimming in water and feeling resistance, right? Love, happiness, tension as being the biggest one from emotion is tension. Right? Every time someone says there's tension in the room, I could cut it with a knife. There was some tension going on over here. It's a physical process. It's just at the emergent level. And so tension not being well defined as what is identified as potential energy, rhythm and vibration being the two main physical principles. Then we've demonstrated that all of the words are consistent to these things, right? Speciality, the tendency to differentiate for sexual antagonism. That's why the word special exists. And so continues to be fraud, criminal activity at the absolute highest level. And I just can't believe this is real, man. My life will never be anything. I will never have a career and a family because truly nobody did anything besides play games all day, and there are no values in this society. There's not one person capable of moral behavior. And that is part of this proof too. That's something being emotional. People don't care about anything. They just don't. Because nobody was taught anything in life besides play games all day, and guess what everyone learned to do? Play games all day and compete over absolutely nothing. And this is part 242 of a derivation of the complete axiomatization of physics. Which, as far as the world's concerned, I can show you videos of Sean Carroll saying, everybody knows, in this tone where it's like, ha ha ha, you're the guy that's going to be remembered when you're dead. So I have to be tortured my whole life? And if I had stopped being tortured right now, I've already endured this brutality for 32 continuous years. But these people literally, it's not that they don't want to care, it's they can't. People that are 5 feet tall and can't jump, don't have a 6-foot vertical, can't dunk a basketball. Or, you know, however much, you get the analogy. People that don't develop their emotions cannot care. And they don't, provably. I am being tortured to death publicly. There is a full-blown math subject, the only math subject, the complete derivation of mathematics sitting in front of you. Is there anybody on this planet that will do the right thing? No. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.